Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all. We're back in the pub. It's me, Chris and Pat to answer your questions. We've only got like 1 week left in this pub. Emotional times. It is, of course, going. Not much we can do. We're going to have to find a new venue. But anyway, let's get on to the first question. It was sent in by Reagan, and he says, which club is in for the biggest decline this season? Hamill, there's one name that springs to mind.
Oh, it's raining outside. I'm feeling a little bit hungover after our sports day yesterday. And now we've got to talk about Steve Bruce at Newcastle. So I'm absolutely chipper this morning. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Maybe for the wrong reasons. Newcastle fans, of course, up in arms saying it's unambitious, and you can't really disagree with them there. I think of managers who have managed over 200 Premier League games, only Brian Robson, his old Manchester United teammate, has a worse win percentage. I think Brian Robson's is around 29%. And Bruce's is literally 30%.
Yeah.
So almost taking the title there. Of course, just coming off the back of a 6-month stint with Sheffield Wednesday, pretty successful one actually. They were hovering near the bottom of the Championship when he took over. I think he led them to 12th. They're investing in new training facilities. He was apparently overhauling the youth system. So Sheffield Wednesday are pretty pissed off, especially after they let him come in a month late. I know it was owing to personal reasons. It was the right thing to do. But I think they thought that Bruce was going to be there for the long term, especially in some of the statements they've released. I know, well, he lasted, 6 years at Birmingham? I think the only other club he's lasted 100 games plus at was Hull.
Yeah.
Out of 11 jobs in English football. I mean,
23 years or something.
It's only yielded 2, long-term placements. So yeah, he's only been, in 21 years of management, he's only been out of work for less than 2 years.
Really?
And he's resigned 7 times. Of course, resigning in this instance has caused a bit of controversy because Sheffield Wednesday now want to take Newcastle to court, I think they're seeking legal advice. But he's resigned 7 times and he's been at another job within a week on 4 of those occasions. He's literally the Del Boy of getting a job in English football.
He's never out of a job.
No.
121 days, I think, across that 21 years.
Only 121? Wow. But I suppose the thing about Steve Bruce coming in as the lowest paid manager in the Premier League, by the way, on just £1 million a year, which is pretty jokes, I'm sure he'll be fine, by the way, is that Rafa Benitez's style at Newcastle was pretty pragmatic. One of our buzzwords, one of mine especially, but pretty pragmatic, wasn't it? So often played 5 at the back or a 3-4-3. I think the second most long balls in the Premier League last year after Burnley, of course. And that pragmatism served them well, didn't it? A 10th place finish and a 13th place finish. I think 44 and 45 points in those seasons as well. So it worked for Rafa Benitez, but it worked because he had dynamic runners in Matt Ritchie, in Ayoze Perez. He had the physicality of Solomon Rondon. And he had a really good back four who, I'm sure that Brucey will be delighted they're still there. So Dubravko, I think is an excellent goalkeeper. Then he had Lejeune, Lascelles and Fabian Schär. I think they completed the second most passes in the bottom half of the Premier League last campaign. So you have this kind of quite nice, if not awful to watch blend of being quite composed on the ball in your own half and then being very direct with your attacking play. But like I said, you need the players to suit the style. And unfortunately for Bruce, key parts of that team have left.
Yeah.
And Rafa Benitez got the very best out of that defence, didn't he? So I'm not sure if that's going to happen next time around. Now you know more about this guy than me. So the only bit of positive news, the only modicum of, the only silver lining is Joel Linton coming in from Hoffenheim. That's been quite heavily reported this week, hasn't it? And that would be quite a progressive signing because apparently they're going to back Bruce to a reasonable extent.
I think 36 million on Joel Linton is a big extent.
Well, there are rumours as well that he could have up to 90 to spend, which, 36 is up to 90 technically.
Well, Rafa Benitez will be pissed off about that, won't he? Because in the 3 years he spent there, 3.3 years, let's say, do you know what his net spend was? He made Newcastle £1 million.
It's mental, isn't it?
And the season when he came in March, and McLaren had spent 90 million. So, yeah, never really worked for Benitez. I'm not sure why he wouldn't have given Benitez the money and tried your best to keep him at the club.
I think he did say that, but Benitez just had enough of the vision. The vision was embarrassing.
Well, he said he'd had more meetings in 1 week at Dalian Yifang than in 3 years at Newcastle, didn't he? So what do you make of Joel Linton? Because I know very little about the guy other than he's promising.
I think he can aim a lot higher than Newcastle, basically. He's been playing for a club that are contenders for Champions League football in Germany. He's been playing under one of the best young managers in Europe, in Nagelsmann, and now it looks like he's going to be playing under Steve Bruce in Newcastle. I mean, the good thing about Joel Linton is that he can do a bit of everything in attack. So he's actually more versatile than Rondon. He's pretty quick. He's also a really big guy. He's a good creator, a couple of key passes a game. Decent shots numbers, 22 years old, so you imagine all that stuff will improve. So he's going to be decent at both creating chances for himself and for other people. And if he's left on his own up front, which is what you would imagine will happen with that roster of attacking talent, then he is capable of carving something out for himself. However,
very important.
There are very few players who can do that reliably, like across a whole season. That's such a lot to ask of a guy. Almiron arrived in January and hasn't been spectacular. So it's not. Yeah, but he's 24. Like Almiron is not a young player.
Injured as well.
Exactly. Like so, he arrived, was injured. He's not so young that you think he's going to massively improve. I think it was like 0.36 expected goals and assists per 90. It doesn't set my world on fire. Joel Linton on the other hand, around 0.6 at 22. Now, Joe pointed out before we started that he has been at Hoffenheim, and Hoffenheim obviously do kind of seem to supercharge everybody's attacking numbers. Yeah. So you want to take that with a bit of a pinch of salt. But 12 goal involvements last season. XG said he should have been maybe closer to about 14 in 2,000 minutes. I think that's a really promising signing. But on its own, you've been very kind. Like, it's calling Matt Ritchie a dynamic runner, but I think we all know that an attack built around him, built around a midfield built around Shelvey. As much as I like Shelvey, this is not good enough to keep them in the Prem.
Been bloody excellent for Newcastle. I mean, he is approaching 30. I mean, he's played left wing back as well as left midfield, hasn't he? But
he doesn't really produce a lot.
I'm worried about Joel Linton.
Yeah, Joel Linton had Demirbay.
I'm worried.
Who was averaging over 3 key passes a game. Playing in that, I suppose, number 8 role.
Well, and Schultz off the left, who was creating 2.5 chances. There's tons of talent there.
Where's the creativity? Because obviously the spine, the go-to formula for Benitez was that 3 at the back, 2 pivots, 1 lone striker. And the pivots in midfield are not Longstaff might go, Shelvey wants to go, Keys not aging out, he'll still be okay, he'll still be fine there. Diarme, Isaac Hayden, these aren't particularly.
Diarme's gone.
These aren't Premier League players, are they?
Diarme's gone on a free to Saudi, I think.
Well, I think as much as Joel Linton, we're Newcastle fans will be hoping hit the ground running. I've just got horrible images of for Florian Thauvin 2.0, and I know that Thauvin now is killing it. He's moved away from Newcastle, but I think 36 million is a risk on him. We mentioned it there. Nagelsmann supercharges every player going forward that he gets his hands on. In the same way, we're always worried about defenders coming out of a Simeone system, like a Felipe Luis who put up big numbers, then joined Chelsea and struggled. I've got vile images of Joel Linton struggling a little bit just through lack of creativity around him, and still question. I know his XG numbers were fantastic.
At least he can dribble,
but still questionable. His actual goal scoring ability.
I don't know. I think he's pretty good in front of goal. It wasn't his job to be a goal scorer last season.
But it is going to be this season.
Yeah, but I think that's fine. I don't really have an issue with that. There are lots of players where you could kind of make that argument, where they started more in a wide position and moved centrally. His job was not to be a central forward last season. The fact that he can create as well and that he can dribble makes me feel a little bit more optimistic. If he was a pure goal scorer, so for instance, look at Maxi Gomez, who was linked with a move to West Ham and now has gone to Valencia. I like Maxi Gomez. Maxi Gomez does nothing except sit in the box and score goals.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but it means that if you hoof the ball long to him and hope he's going to create something out of nothing, then you're going to be out of luck. Whereas Joel Linton at least can do that a bit.
So we see him very much as the Perez replacement as opposed to the Rondon replacement. So even if he's getting those, I think Perez got 12 goals, didn't he? This was his best return in
be a mix
in the league to date. So you've got a dribbly, dynamic runner in Joel Linton who has a habit of getting good shots off in the box. Who do you replace Solomon Rondon with? Who was the Player of the Year and a swapsies with West Brom? He was unexpectedly good. So now they're in the position where they have to actually spend to replicate Benitez's formula as opposed to just looking out that guy.
And also, I know you mentioned that defence that we thought was fairly solid, and there's maybe one player that I quite like in there, Fabian Schär. I think he can do a bit of everything.
I quite like Lascelles. For the level,
I think Lascelles is okay.
For the level they're at.
But my concern is that Rafa had such a structured defensive system as playing a back 3. Steve Bruce is not going to play a back 3. is going straight back to a back four. One of those is going to drop out. You'd imagine it'll probably be Lejeune, however you pronounce it, and he might shift to a full-back area. The fullbacks worry me.
But that's fine if they invest. Again, if
they're not going to invest in fullbacks.
If they've got money to invest, they'll be fine. Like,
this is going to be Lejeune and DeAndre Yedlin as the fullbacks.
Go on. I think Yedlin was up there for key passes as well, but like you wouldn't want him defending out in a 4-4-2.
In a Steve Bruce system, losing all of that structure.
He's a really helpful fullback for a lower table club in that like he can get you up the field, but like. But they could have played Hayden more as well, and Hayden actually had huge defensive numbers in midfield, but didn't play all that much.
He'll play under Bruce.
I think he'll play quite a bit. I don't know. He sort of ended up. He somehow ended up like in the wilderness. I don't remember what happened, but like, I think that I don't know, man. Like, I know what you're saying. Like, basically, I feel like it was pure Benitez magic.
So do I.
That Newcastle last season had the 18th best attack in the league, but they had the 11th best defence. They were pretty
better than United and Arsenal defensively.
Nah, I think they ended up just below Arsenal.
I think they conceded less goals, though, didn't they?
Probably, yeah. But overall, like by XG and stuff, they ended up just below Arsenal. So, but that's still pretty remarkable. And I don't know, that to me just screams like Benitez did this, and Steve Bruce's defensive record. As much as I rate Steve Bruce below the Premier League level, he is no longer a Premier League level manager. I don't think. I think the quality of managing the Premier League is so high.
He's in that grey area with Warnock, isn't he? 4 promotions to the Premiership from the Championship. This is a joint record with Warnock. But I think how many? 1 relegation, and he left Sunderland in 16th.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I guess so.
But he's not a dinosaur in the way that, you know, like some of these guys are. Like, I think there are people talking about it as if like he's genuinely an idiot and like has nothing to offer, and he's clearly not that. I think he's better than Warnock.
But apparently he's very good with players. So some
they are getting relegated though.
Yes,
they are getting relegated.
Some journalists in Newcastle, it's split them. Obviously, it's been quite a divisive appointment, but a lot of the positives I'm seeing allude to his man management. But
that's what they said about McLaren, though.
Yeah, I don't think Newcastle are in a position where just having good, strong personal relationships gets you that much more out of the players in order to keep the Premier League. I think at this point, Aston Villa are probably more well equipped to stay in the Premier League. I really do than Newcastle. They need to sign that Salomon Rondon replacement, and I don't know who he is at this point. Like Seb Haller might have been good because he's nice and physical, wins over 6 headers I think a game in the Bundesliga. He did last campaign for Eintracht Frankfurt, but it looks like he's going to West Ham.
He's gone. He's gone. Announced.
Yeah, and I can see why you want to go there.
Yeah, as opposed to Newcastle.
It's a non-competition.
But they could easily get like a straightforward poacher, right? Couldn't they, if they've got Joel Linton there? I don't know. Like, I mean, I think you're right in the sense that it makes sense. Joel Linton, I think, could easily turn into just a top-class centre forward. Like, I think that's probably where his destiny is. But for the time being, I think a good thing to do would be to sort of emulate the Raul Jimenez and Diogo Jota kind of partnership at Wolves.
Where you've got that style of football.
Yeah, where you've got one guy who does a bit of everything and one guy who basically gets on the end of that guy's passes.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like
I think Giroud would have been a good option for them if they hadn't have had the bang coming up to the end of that contract.
That would have been interesting.
But you need like some super mobile wingers around him, don't you? I guess Almiron is one of those players. Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult.
But yeah, it's not great, is it?
Let's talk about some other teams then. A lot of chat about Sheffield United going straight down
yes, they will
over the summer.
But I think they expect to. Do they not?
I'm sure they won't be expecting to, but they'll certainly be favourites.
This is a Brucey bonus, this one. A year in the Premier League.
I feel like their owner said, I'm really looking forward to enjoying this season as a fan, which sounded like, I accept we're going down.
You've had a closer look, haven't you?
And I'll admit, they look like strong relegation. It's like,
yes, they do.
They just have no money to spend. So I feel a little bit sorry for them in that regard. You know, you're looking at Villa spending, I think, around 100 million already. These boys still scraping together like £10 million sort of numbers. I think their record transfer has happened this summer. Callum Robinson for 7.
Jesus. Off Preston
North End, and I believe that they've also brought in Luke Freeman as well from QPR for about 6.
He was actually, when we went to watch QPR, the best player.
Yeah. So those two have come in. Obviously, P Jags has come back. We all called that one at Football Daily as soon as he was released by Everton. There's only one destination for him. And then Ravel Morrison, obviously leaving Ostersund's early, never showing up to pre-season, and then mysteriously turning up on the Sheffield United training pitch.
I really do hope he can he can turn it around.
This is his last opportunity, isn't it? So
No, I don't know.
Chris Wilder must have seen something in his 6-week trial that has impressed him a
It's
little
one that
bit.
probably wasn't granted either. Like given his career since
Yeah.
Lazio, that 4-year deal, went to Atlas, went to like you said, Ostersund's,
Ostersund's,
where else?
He's just been all over the
Just
place, isn't
obscene.
he? And struggling. But like I was digging into him a bit, and they are an interesting team. And I think if anybody's going to keep him in the division, it's going to be Chris Wilder. They've got the best manager available by far at the helm right now. The guy is nothing short of a lower league genius, quite frankly. Like we talk about Bruce being the master of like promotions from the Championship. Wilder's taken Oxford out of the conference, taken Northampton out of League Two when he took over there in the relegation zone, taken obviously Sheffield United now out of League One and out of the Championship. I think since he took over Sheffield United in 2016, the only manager in England's top 4 divisions to take more points than him per game is Pep. He plays a super interesting brand of football, kind of really underrated for that as well. Obviously, like Marcelo Bielsa gets loads of credit in the Championship as being this sort of progressive manager that everybody knows. Like, I have to take my hats off to Sheffield United last season, playing a 3-5-2 with overlapping centre-backs. Have you heard anything like it? Like, somebody tweeted me this the other day, and I thought today, you know, I'll pay it some respect. I'll actually do a bit of research into this overlapping centre-back theory.
It's
And
mayhem, though.
it exists. It's genuinely a thing. They have a back three of kind of O'Connell, Egan and Basham. O'Connell and Basham, they may as well be wingers. They both put up 2.1 crosses per 90 last season and nearly 2 dribbles per 90. Just ridiculous numbers for central defenders. Basically, what happens
feels
is,
like it's going to be
they
interesting
push
in the Prem.
wide. The wing backs drop in, or one of the midfielders like Ollie Norwood drops in.
Yeah.
Then they overlap the forwards, get to the byline and cut it back. It's totally bizarre. I can't wait to see P. Jags trying to do it. At what is he, 37?
Oh my God!
I imagine though Phil Jagielka's kind of going to be more in that Egan role of
But then what
the
do you do
rock
with
solid
Egan?
centre back.
Can Egan play in those wide roles?
Egan will be the. I think P. Jags are not going to
Egan's
start
great,
for Sheffield
right?
United. Yeah,
P. Jags has got assistant manager in a year's time written all over.
I couldn't agree more.
That's why he's been brought back.
But like as exciting as that is, and as dynamic and fresh thinking for an English manager that is, my concern remains going forward. Billy Sharp, 23 goals last season. McGoldrick, 15 goals last season. That's a combination of 38 goals of their 71. That nearly 50% of their goals, in fact, that's probably over 50%. My maths is not good. Like 55% of their goals coming from Billy Sharp, who's 33, and I can't see scoring more than 5 league goals this season. And McGoldrick.
Third oldest squad in the Championship, was it last year?
Yeah, I think so.
It's right up there. Like, really weird squad as well. Not a single foreign player in it. Every single player in the roster is from England, Ireland, Scotland or Wales.
Yeah.
And as exciting as this whole sort of overlapping fullbacks, overlapping centre-backs, 3 at the back, a modern dynamic English manager is, I get concerned that in the same way when Fulham came up last season and played this and thought they could play this dynamic brand of football that they played in the Championship, Sheffield United, you're hoping it's not going to be as naive because they are still very sound defensively last season. I think they only conceded 41 goals, which was better than Norwich, better than Villa.
Yeah, a lot better than both of them.
But still was something that says to me this sort of overloading in wide areas, using defenders, midfielders, swapping roles with centre forwards, says to me that they are going to get brutalised on the counter-attack.
Yeah, like he's done it.
Quite
It was a gamble and it paid off, but then he's hit a ceiling.
Like my concern is it's just one step too far. Like the Championship might well
but
be.
I don't think
that
anyone would hold that
tier.
against him, would they?
No.
Things getting found out in the Championship. Like, there are some decent managers in the Championship, but like in the Prem, you back half of the managers in the league to be able to figure something out. You know.
Yeah.
There's too much managerial talent.
And you know, like you mentioned it there, like the spine to the core of the team is still a League One team. Like they're still the same team that brought them out of League One into the Championship. Like Duffy, for instance, 33 now. He was a scaffolder in 2016.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if
he
they can
was at
make the
Vauxhall
same,
Motors.
That's actually really sick.
And
the same sort of evolution as Southampton when they went from that League One to Premier League sort of era, let's say, when and they still had the core of the same squad from League One.
But
they had more money.
But they had
and
a lot of
academy.
talent. Like it
Yeah.
was like Adam Lallana,
Who was still quite young.
I mean, they
Like
rode their luck as well when like Adkins was there, and then they got really lucky with appointing someone like Pochettino, didn't they? So
yeah.
like Yeah, they would have to do a madness.
Yeah, I mean Chris Wilder though. So we'll take your hats off to him. If anybody's going to do it, it's going to be Chris Wilder.
He'll have
To adapt fast enough, it's going to be Chris Wilder.
He'll have offers next summer, like definitely. The only question will be
100%.
whether he wants to leave, right? Because he's Sheffield United, kind of born and
bit
raised.
of a Sheffield United boy. So
Played there as well.
I think they'll probably go down. But
Yeah.
to say that's like a disappointing
I think so.
season, I think is a little bit harsh as well. So for me, I'm going Sheffield United and Newcastle as 2 that go down. The third is open. Norwich
third
are a
is
serious
open.
contender for me in
Yes, I
there,
think
given
so.
that they just don't have a goal scorer. Timu Pukki, yeah, he's got a new contract. He's not getting more than 10 this season.
On the other hand, they do have players who I think like are good and will improve. Like you could argue that they're more similar to that Southampton position where they've got
Max Aaron signed a new 5-year contract today.
Really,
Yeah.
they've got Max Aaron, they've got Jamal Lewis, they've got Emiliano Buendia.
I love Buendia.
They have Trippier in midfield.
Good player.
Having that player in midfield, I think, is really, really important. And Villa have got Hurricane, who is very good in the Championship. I worry about him in the Prem.
Yeah.
I really worry about
I
him
think
in the Prem.
McGinn and Grealish will be strong in the Premier League.
They will be. I think they'll be pretty good. I also
What
think
was
that
it, 27 assists between those 3?
Yeah,
I
but I
think
think
last campaign.
Vesley will be a huge step down on Tammy Abraham. I really do think so. I don't think Vesley's very good at all. And well, you know, he might surprise me. I think Tyrone Mings is a horrific overpay. Like they've spent a lot of money, but they haven't spent it very well.
Yeah, parallels with Fulham in that to that extent.
I think
Although-
Fulham
or the
spent it a
playing
lot
style's
better,
more
actually.
similar to Norwich, isn't it?
They just didn't spend it. They didn't spend enough in defence as well. Like I feel like actually Fulham. I looked at their signings more and I was like, I can see the value in these. In Villa, I think they've.
Well, we didn't disagree strongly with an awful lot of Fulham signings at the time. Like
We just said buy some defenders, which
but
they
the trouble with Fulham
Target
was,
as well. I think is like he's fine. He's
I
fine.
think the trouble with Fulham as well was we were thinking how like those signings were almost bought for a team that were going to be like progressive and attacking and play the same football that Fulham had played in the Championship. And as soon as they hit the Premier League, it was like we're just under pressure
Yeah.
all the
But
time.
they
And the players we
also-
bought aren't fitting a system that needs to be adapted for defending.
Yeah, but the vision crumpled, didn't it? Because they were out shooting an awful lot of Premier League opposition, weren't they? They were like 10th, 11th, 10 games in for shots taken
Shout out
per game.
Shearer.
But they were like 16th, 17th for shots conceded. And instead of doubling down on that and thinking this may save us towards the end of the campaign, they fucking bottled it and then started employing defence-minded coaches. Like, and that is just where their season was over. What about across the continent? Because shout out to Marseille losing to Accrington Stanley, then losing 4-0 to Rangers. Everyone thinks 55 for Rangers is coming home now. Rangers fans have gone absolutely mental on Twitter. I think even Jermaine Defoe scored against Villas-Boas' Marseille, and they look horrific.
Yeah, because they're
they
getting
finished fifth
picked
last
apart.
campaign. They're going to get relegated.
And they're going to get picked apart. Like they're going to have to sell at least 2 players. Still, they're still in the midst of that financial crisis.
But this is the thing, right? Everyone's going to wait till the last week of the window, and then I reckon they're going to get some insulting offers for Tauvin.
Well, Leicester have already bid 29 mil for Tauvin.
29 mil though. I think is probably
It's reasonable.
it's not a
Yeah.
piss-takey price.
But if it gets to a week out, I can see them going 25, 22.
Yeah.
Like,
And their centre backs as well. They've got Kamara as well, who is like their kind of young defensive star. They're probably going to lose him. They might lose Amalbi again.
Probably something in Colette.
Marseille are definitely going to be in serious trouble this season. Be in the bully.
What's that? Disappointing, or what are we going for?
What the original
what was
question
the angle?
was? Let me double check the original question.
Because I think that RB Leipzig might take over
who's
Dortmund.
in for a big decline. Something like that.
effectively.
I think Leipzig should be strong. Hoffenheim have gone for a progressive appointment again. I'm not sure you're unlikely to get as lucky as you did with Nagelsmann, 2 times in a row. But I think Eintracht are going to have to do a lot. Like I love Adi
and Jovic.
Yeah, and I love Adi Hutter, but basically like their success this season was pretty much based on like supercharging an attack, which was Rebic, Haller, and Jovic, and 2 of those guys have gone.
Or
And
Rebic.
fine. Yeah, well, I mean, he can still go. I mean, Atleti have been linked to him as well, but they just seem to say like, look, if we can get the maximum amount for these 2, we've got 100 mil. What can we do with it? But I think 100 mil doesn't go as far as it used to.
Especially there's some other teams in and around that have made really good managerial appointments as well. Like Marco Rose at Gladbach, they've made some really decent
That's
signings
really
as well.
exciting,
They've brought in
actually.
Brian Bolo. So I think
Marcus Thuram, they're going to get for 12 mil.
Absolutely steal that. So I think they're going to be. Oh,
Jesus.
I nearly went. I think they're going to be pretty decent next campaign. So yeah, I'd be quite comfortable going with.
Think another one, potential one, Atletico Madrid. depending on how those signings gel, they could be in for a massive drop-off season.
I actually really agree with this.
Like,
I'm worried about Atleti.
It could be so fun.
It could either go one way or total opposite. I've got horrible images of us being in December, João Felix not scoring a goal yet, and Morata on 2, and then just bagging around Kieran Trippier, just making mistake after mistake at right back.
Morata was really good over the second half of last season. Had basically the same numbers as Griezmann. But even if Morata has the same numbers as Griezmann, then who's getting the same numbers that Morata got? Because I don't think it's going to be Felix. It's certainly not going to be Diego Costa, who's shot to bits. Like
one of the biggest shot to bits of the season. Like he's
probably the worst.
STB.
Probably the worst last year. Yeah. And then like Lamar will probably be a bit better, but Lamar was just not really playing in attack. He was like doing transition stuff. No Rodri. Don't get me wrong, more minutes for Partey, fine with that. But then no Godin. Felipe Luis is finally gone, which actually overall is good.
No Juan Fran.
He is a good signing, but like at the same time, does he hit the ground and immediately gels with the rest of that team? It's quite a specific system they play. It's worrying.
I think Trippier replacing Juan Fran is one of the most bizarre moves of the summer.
I don't think it'll be worse than Juan Fran's been the last couple of seasons.
Unless he goes to 3 at the back. Like Juan Fran's defensive numbers have like declined like incrementally, haven't they? Like a little bit by a little bit.
Their fullbacks
his attacking numbers have dropped off big time.
But like even last season, like Trippier had a big drop off. Like what happens if Trippier has another drop off?
But the issue with Trippier is more that he can't both get forward and defend. If they keep him back to defend, he'll probably be absolutely fine.
I just feel like that you lose.
He played in a deep block at Burnley and he was absolutely fine.
But you lose his best elements there, which like
maybe.
I mean, a lot of Spurs fans would say his delivery also this season has been extremely poor. But I think maybe if they change to 3-4-3, it could be interesting. Like that's a slightly easier way maybe to deal with the talent overhaul going on at the club right now.
I just feel like they've never ever changed formation.
Yeah,
every year we're like maybe the personnel they're buying would suit this formation. Every year it's like 4-4-2.
Yeah, I suppose the only positive for Athletic fans is they've got a lot of money left and they've still got quite a lot of time left. Like there's at least reason to be positive about.
Do they have a lot of money left?
Apparently Simeone's got a war chest.
They're quite heavily linked to James coming into the club.
What?
Did you see Maradona tweet
right.
James Rodriguez? Like, if you go to Napoli, don't you dare take the number 10.
Yeah. Well, I think the Napoli move might, like, the last I read was the Napoli move had fallen through because they couldn't afford the obligation to buy.
Insigne's still talking about it.
Whereas Atletico were willing to put the money down the table straight away.
Well, then they probably will have to change formation. Like that would be mayhem. Like, but then it's just like stop buying people who play in the same position. Like last year they were playing Lamar off the right. Okay, so now they have Lamar who wants to play off the right. They have Correa who probably wants to play off the right. They have João Felix who plays off the right, and they're also getting James Rodriguez who's probably going to play off the right or in the number 10 role, which they don't play with. So that looks like an interesting setup for that squad.
Lamar's going to have a big season as well, isn't he? His creativity was like around 1 to 1.5 key passes per 90 last term. Like, yeah, they're going to need so much more from him. I think you just said that, but it reminded me of it. What about moving away from La Liga then to Serie A? Because I was thinking Fiorentina, but then Fiorentina were flirting with relegation last term anyway. They might lose,
they were much better than they ended up.
Point suggested. They might lose Chiesa, they might lose Vetu. Although rumours linking, Vetu away to other clubs have gone a little bit cold, haven't they?
I think all those guys are going to stay.
Same with Chiesa. Like that Chiesa to Juve move dried right up.
So I might go for Lazio. I just see the other teams are strengthening. There's been different managers instilled at these clubs, and Simone Inzaghi, he signed a couple of players in the region of 10 mil. A guy from Spal, I can't remember who else. If Milinkovic-Savic goes, which again just feels like William Carvalho, 3 or 4 years ago, where it's just every year Savic is that big money move.
Yeah, he'll just be there till he's like 27, and then he'll finally.
He's going to age it out, and he'll end up at Betis. Who's linked with Betis today? Nabil Fekir. What a banging signing that.
30 mil.
Not the topic though.
Yeah, that is an odd one.
What about Serie A?
I mean, I kind of agree with you on Lazio. On the other hand, like
AC.
I think Joaquin Correa will continue to grow for them. Like, the question is what they do about Immobile, who's we said for a while this isn't going to last forever, and now it looks like forever is kind of now. But I don't know what Milan. I was thinking about this morning because Milan I think were the worst of the big sides last season. But Bakayoko's gone back, so I was
they've
like,
lost Gattuso, and as mediocre as Gattuso, well, he's gone.
Oh no!
As mediocre as Gattuso was, he wasn't horrific for Milan.
No, his results were pretty strong. His style of football, not necessarily, but
they were the worst of the big sides.
They still might lose Suso. They've lost Bakayoko.
I don't think they will lose Suso now. I'm not sure that there's a good suitor for him. And Bakayoko's gone, but they brought in Benacer, who actually profiles quite similar to him, lots of dribbles, lots of defensive actions, was actually the player of the group stage in AFCON, and Algeria are obviously in the final now, in part thanks to him. He's 21 as well, so that's sensible. But they've just got, I don't know, they're kind of like Everton, where they've just got like a ton of like attacking players there who they bought some, they didn't really work, rather than letting them kind of grow into the team, they just bought some more, and you know that they'll just, in 2 years they'll be trying to sell Paqueta to Burnley or something.
It'll be interesting to see what Gianpaolo does with them, because I think based on Sampdoria's results last term, I was maybe a little bit dismissive of Gianpaolo, but quite a few Milan fans tweeted me saying, now have like a closer look at his methods and his ethos, because he actually graduated ahead of Sarri in his management class, and Sarri's I think always been like very, very kind and said positive things about Gianpaolo. So yeah, maybe there'll be a bit of a dark horse. Maybe to link our past conversation together, Correa has been linked with Atletico Madrid for 40 to 50 mil. This is a guy who
that'd be a great move actually.
Cast away by Sevilla for no real reason. Always put up very good expected goals and assist numbers. I think it was, 11 goal involvements in something like 18 starts last campaign, give or take a few appearances, and I think expected goals and assists put him close to 15.
It was like 0.7 or 0.8 per 90, wasn't it?
Around points. He edged Sadio Mane, and I seem to always use Sadio Mane because I can just remember his was like 0.69.
Yeah.
But a lot of Lazio fans saying that he is a baller and they anticipate him moving on if the club don't show a little bit more ambition. So that'd be cool if he went to Atletico Madrid.
Kind of move Atleti could have made instead of João Felix.
All right, so we are saying that Newcastle are going to have the biggest decline. Keep your eye on Sheffield United. Keep your eye on Atletico Madrid and Lazio in Italy and Marseille. I'm sorry, but I mean your season's over. It's not even begun. Moving on to quickfire questions now then. Zach Kingdom has the first one. He says, with the addition of Haller, do you think West Ham will finish in a Europa League spot?
Does he really make this much impact, Pato?
What are the Europa League spots? Where do you have to finish?
6th and 7th.
6th and 7th, yeah.
But you can get it if
Via a cup.
one of the others wins a cup or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, probably. Like I actually was gonna say in the first one that I don't think Wolves are gonna have a decline exactly, but I think people who are suggesting that they're gonna like break up the top 6 are perhaps going a little bit overboard. Unless Chelsea go at the absolute bottom end of what they're capable of, then I kind of feel like the top 6 are still pretty solid. I don't know. Like I'm really excited about this West Ham team now. Like I still think they need defensive midfield reinforcements. Like I think that Rice is promising. I've said this before. I still think they need someone probably better for right now. However, in attack, they're super exciting. Like Pablo Fornals is a great creative player. Felipe Anderson, I thought was fantastic last season. I think Felipe Anderson is the player that people think Wilf Zaha is. And Sebastian Haller up front is the perfect man to kind of facilitate everybody. Like he's an amazing creator. He's a really, really good link-up player. He's great in the air. He's also a good finisher. He's 24, so there's probably still a little bit more to come from him.
It's such a good move on so many fronts. I think I tweeted this out that, like you, I think he's going to complement Anderson and Fornals really, really well, simply because he adds that physicality that those two players don't have. In the same way that Rondon supplied, all the headers for Perez to kind of get onto with his pace and his dynamic running. I think he could do that for those guys. And I mean, 1.9 key passes per term last year, which would have put him in the top 20. I think joint 11th creators in the Premier League. Like for 45 mil, they've got a really selfless, hard-working forward who
wins everything in the air.
Probably more to his game. Well, it was 6.9 headers, and I was wondering like what was peak Andy Carroll winning? And I found it, and it was in like 2012, 13, it was like 9, and I was like, that is sickening, 9. But I mean, last year it was like 3 point something in his very limited minutes. But they've got someone who's much more well-rounded than Carroll ever was. Admittedly, they've paid market value for him, but so on West Ham again. I'm delighted for West Ham.
Yeah, even their back line is pretty exciting, isn't it? Cresswell and Diop. And then Fabianski between sticks is a very, very solid keeper. I think West Ham are in for a great season as long as there's no injuries. Like one injury could just scupper everything.
Yeah, it's not the deepest squad, is it?
It's not. Yeah,
But
Yeah,
it's clearly going to be like the top six, you know, like the stragglers in the top six who are Arsenal, Man United, and Chelsea.
Yeah.
Plus then Leicester, West Ham, and Wolves.
Yeah.
Those are the contenders for those places.
Yeah, totally agree. Max has the next one. He says, "Is Huddersfield's kit the worst in the English league in this century?"
It has to be brought up. This absolute disgrace.
Although I'm going to caveat this with just
The worst. This
some
century.
information about it. Definitely a publicity stunt by Paddy Power. Breaks regulations on English kit rules in the UK, which there is a certain size it has to abide by. I think it's like 28 centimetres by 12 centimetres location in the middle of the shirt.
Okay.
So breaks that. What's going to happen, I'm predicting this now, it's on Thursday, is Paddy Power have done this for one pre-season friendly. Paddy Power, they're going to come out and they're going to go, oh, we listen to the fans, you know, it's all about the club, and they're just going to go for an ARM logo sponsorship, something like that. This will not be their kit.
It's very Paddy Power, but still, by that same token, like, you don't let your football club be used as a publicity stunt, as a bit of a joke for Paddy Power. That's like...
Depends how much they pay you.
True.
I mean, if you're Huddersfield and you've just gone down, maybe you need the beans, but still, I'd have a bit more self-respect than that. But
Yeah,
I think people are saying it's the worst kit this century, though. Need to go back and look at just the sleeves from a kit from 2000. There was the Bradford ones when they came up, and Bradford do have the worst colour scheme. But it was But if you held your arm out in that shirt, there was like this much material down there, like a f***ing flying squirrel. Like it was absolutely ridiculous. Dean Windass was getting so much like air resistance, like trying to run
it's
around.
like he's in a wind
It's
tunnel.
fucking embarrassing, man. Like
true.
I hated that Bradford kit.
Yeah,
There's
the 90s, there were some
goalkeeper kits as well.
abominations, mate.
Like Seaman and a couple of absolute howlers, but
Some of the goalkeeper
Should we
kits
actually
in the
answer the question?
90s.
Yeah,
I swear
can
there
you
were
remember
no
any
rules
awful
on
ones?
kits in the 90s. It was all just like trying to give forwards like PTSD or something, where they would just be like kaleidoscope, like weird images, and then like
some fat acid trip.
yeah, so weird.
The next one was sent in by the Mazette. Says, who should Spurs sign to replace Rose/Trippier? Well, Rose hasn't gone yet, but there is talk that he might leave.
Yeah, he's been left off their tour, right?
Yeah.
He wants to leave, doesn't he?
I think he wants to leave.
But
Yeah.
if Trippier's 20, like how much do you get for Rose? Because Rose is quite a lot better than Trippier, I think.
So let's say they get 30-ish for Rose, 20 for Trips.
Who's buying Rose though for 30?
There'll be a lot of clubs interested.
like
in
Who
Rose.
though?
I don't know where Rose wants to go. Like headspace-wise, he clearly wants to move on from Tottenham, but
What about Dortmund if
obviously
they've let Rafa Guerrero go?
They've already bought us.
Yeah,
left
they-
the
back.
whole racism thing really affected him, didn't it? So I don't think he's going to go to like Italy.
Spain,
I think
Italy,
he's
Russia.
He's flirted with the idea. He said that, I can't remember what club came in for him, but he said of that club, they wanted to meet him to check if he wasn't crazy after he came out about mental health problems, and he was like, never going to them then. And I imagine he thinks that about certain leagues owing to the racist behaviour that, you know, dominated headlines just last season. So maybe the Bundesliga?
I love Danny Rose, man. I wouldn't let him go because I just think like
Yeah, it'd be a weird one.
I just think you're not going to get in a player of comparable quality for cheap.
And I would imagine they'd be looking at like a Max Aarons or Lewis, that sort of player. That seems like the obvious Rose replacement is obviously Sessegnon at the front of everybody's mind. We all agree, I think he's not a Premier League left back, probably more of a forward.
Not yet, yeah.
And if they were to let Rose go for 30 and buy Sessegnon for 40, I think it would be a little bit odd.
I just don't think. Yeah, I don't think he's a left back at all.
And now Max Aarons has signed, I think today, his shooters on Thursday, has signed a 4-5 year contract at Norwich with no buyout clause.
Sure.
So if you're going to go and get him, you're probably going to end up paying Wan-Bissaka money, 40 to 50 million pounds to get him out of Norwich. I just be totally bizarre for them to sell Rose after selling Trippier and limit themselves, unless Poch has ridiculous trust in Kyle Walker-Peters and the walking red card Serge Aurier, because I can't understand who's going to play that right back slot. I think Wan Foyth might get loads of minutes at right back.
They could get some. There are some bargains around Europe they could go for. You know, like there's a left back at Rennes called Ghislain Conan, like who looks really really good. Like had a really good season. Like, but I think I don't know. Like. To me, if Arsenal don't get the Tierney thing done and you do sell Danny Rose for 20-25 mil, go and get Tierney like before they do. That seems like a really sensible
Arsenal
Spurs
really pissing me
move.
off at the
Yeah,
moment.
well, Spurs and Saliba, that nearly happened, didn't it? But you boys seem to have got that over the line. So
Seems so.
So never write it off. The last football-related one, then, before we move on to personal questions, is what is your favourite football podcast? Oh, sorry, both football and non-football podcast.
You guys listen to mine all the time, right?
Yeah,
All the
24/7.
time. All the time.
Thank you.
Watch my one back.
I would say
Just check the editing. Stalinist editing.
quickly, Kevin, can he score is the best football one.
Yeah,
It just
you're
is the
always
best
telling me
football
to.
one, man. So
Tune
good. Yeah, nothing comes close, I don't think. Really.
Okay, so I like Galazzo, James Richardson, or what is it called, the football something show with James Richardson.
Not a clue.
He's pretty good. Peter Crouches, I've listened to a few of them. They're pretty comical. You know, he's obviously a very easygoing guy, very easy to listen to. But no, nothing comes close to Extra Time. So yeah.
The double pivot's pretty good for like a sort of like they'd say things. I learn stuff listening to that one. I don't really want to listen to like a funny football podcast. Like I listen to other podcasts for that, and like for a football one, I'm like, just tell me stuff I don't know.
What other podcasts do you listen to?
I listened to Hardcore History. I've been listening to about the First World War and Hardcore History recently. It's like 6 4-hour-long episodes about the First World War.
Joe Rogan's always banging on about that hardcore history.
It's great. It's also depressing. And I don't know. I listen to a ton. I listen to Malcolm Gladwell's one, Revisionist History, Against the Rules, with the guy who wrote Moneyball, Michael Lewis. That was really, really good. And The Big Short he wrote as well.
Nice.
Those are really good.
I like How I Built This. That's quite good for a little, like, 40-minute, something different. It's about how entrepreneurs built their companies. Can I think of anything else?
You must listen to Tim Ferriss. You're such a Tim Ferriss bloke.
I honestly don't know who Tim Ferriss is.
He's kind of a self-help guy, but but what he actually does, like on his podcast, is just like speaks to people who he thinks are at like the top of their profession.
Oh, okay.
So like the variety, like it will be actors and writers and entrepreneurs and whoever. Like it's a real variety of people. He's a bit of a knob. I don't really listen to it anymore, but some of his guests are incredible. So, he's like Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, clearly a piece of shit, but some of the guests he gets are incredible.
All right, let's move on to personal questions then. Final one. Most disappointing music concert you've ever attended? This was sent in by Jamie Wilkes, by the way.
Wow.
1, 3, 4. I'll come straight in with mine because I was at it at the weekend. Chance the Rapper.
Really?
Wow. Just
Really not good.
Headlined Love Box on the main stage and like came out of a techno tent where Charlotte DeVette had just played straight onto Chance. So like somebody should have turned his mic on. Somebody should have turned his mic on to start with because it was literally like this. Everybody at the back makes some noise. Jumping around the front, please. It's like turn your mic up.
More like Any Chance.
Then halfway
rapper.
through, I can't remember what his biggest song is. Not Chance's biggest fan. Forgot the lyrics and went, these aren't. Literally, the song was playing. He's going, this isn't my bit of the song, so I don't usually know the lyrics. So everybody was like, brilliant.
Absolute stage
quite
presence.
like.
And then between like each song, just when like momentum started to build, he was like, right, I'm just going for a water break. And it's just like, well, you've only done a 40-minute set. Like, why are you pausing? Just crack on with the next song, Jeffrey. So yeah, I think he was awful at the weekend.
Oh.
Just crap.
Gorillaz,
Really?
who are famously good live apparently, but I was bored out of my watching them at Sizeget Festival. I think it might have been because they were after Storms as well, and he was actually very, very good.
Yeah. What do they do?
Bonobo.
Do they have like themselves as...
Bonobo are really good.
I saw
Do they have
Bonobo live,
themselves
and
as
they were
animated
good.
cut characters in the background?
Gorillaz.
Just like...
They didn't even play like 2 or 3 of their biggest songs, and I was just like,
Do they play Feel Good Inc?
I don't know.
Dead.
I don't think they played Clint Eastwood. Yeah, proper. It was absolute KO.
Live music, I find can often be like just a little bit disappointing. Like unless it's like meant for you to dance to, then quite often you're like, what am I meant to do while this music's on? Because if it's not danceable music, I'm like, am I just going to stand here and appreciate it? I could just listen to it mixed better somewhere else. Whereas when it's
That
meant
is typical you. That
when
actually,
when it's what like actually liking music for music. Yeah, what a dick.
no,
Like-
instead of I can listen to this as a better audio quality just
Yeah.
at home on iTunes.
Well, it's just stupid. Like if it's music for me to dance to, then I'm happy to dance to it. But if it's music where it's just like they're just playing it, and everyone's just standing there like listening to a song they've heard before, but it's a slightly worse
part
quality.
of the energy, part of the atmosphere.
But there's no energy or atmosphere. Like everyone's sitting there being like, "Oh, this isn't great." Like,
That's
"Oh,
what
why are
Chance
they doing
was
it?
like,
Why
yeah.
why are they doing it differently? What's this array? What the f is going on?" Like, oh,
But let's flip it. Who's been unexpectedly good that you've seen live? I was
Unexpectedly
absolutely
good.
mesmerised by Lana Del Rey. Absolute temptress.
Will Easton, if you don't know who he is,
No.
type him into Spotify. Yeah, he followed Camel Fat once at Brixton O2 and just blew them out of the water. And he's just like a very, very small name DJ, and he's just incredible live.
Yeah.
And Gorgon City, so good live.
What about you, mate?
Yeah, big time.
Been to see some opera recently.
I did see the opera
How was
recently.
that? Because I couldn't
Disappointing
think
or
of
what?
anything worse.
No, it's exactly what you expect opera to be.
Just people
You know,
singing?
People just singing.
Loud.
Yep.
Was Paul Potts there?
Who?
He won Britain's Got Talent singing opera.
Oh yeah, big time.
Shout out Paul
The face
Potts.
of opera, mate.
I wouldn't know. Maybe he was.
I think,
Let's
is
check
he
him out.
blind?
No.
I'm not sure.
Jesus Christ.
But very good singer,
is
Paul
he
Potts.
blind?
Very, very good singer.
That's Bocelli, isn't it?
That's when they get good.
no, but yeah, that
You
is
lose
it.
one
It
sense
is
and your
Bocelli,
voice
isn't it?
gets-
The one that came on.
Andrea Bocelli.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's actually a guy. Like.
Yeah, I'm getting confused between him and Paul
Yeah,
Potts.
Bocelli was definitely never on Britain's Got Talent. So.
Either way, that is the end of this week's Sunday Vibes. If you want to get your question answered next week, slam it in the comments below or send it to us on Twitter on Wednesdays. We put out the tweet. Apologies to Bocelli.
Is he blind?
Hamill, anything you want to watch?
Andrea
or
Bocelli,
push to?
Stevie
Yeah,
Wonder,
go
Ray
and
Charles.
watch like a
All good.
medley of Paul Potts' best bits. And Extra Time podcast
Is not out.
is not out. I should know that because it's Thursday and we haven't done it. And is there anything else I'm forgetting about?
Stat Wars.
Usual stuff. It'll be on
Usual
screen.
Yeah.
It'll be on
Thanks very much for watching. Au revoir.